सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि सम्पश्यन् ब्रह्म परमं याति नान्येन हेतुना। So we have an incomplete analysis. That's why the big however. The sifting Atma and Anatma has a purpose. So it's a temporary way to delineate that which is to be known, to delineate the object here which is the subject to be known. Like when you remove the husk and the paddy through this process called winnowing. You must have seen this in India, where you stand on a small hillock with this, a kind of a basket, a winnowing basket, which is high on one side and flat on the other. It's in the shape like this, a kind of a squarish basket. And then you stand there and just shake it. And the wind, you stand against the wind. And so the wind itself takes all the husk and leaves the paddy. So this is what you have to do, because that, that paddy has to be delineated from the not paddy, correct? Yeah. So the non-paddy, which is the husk, is let go of, and the paddy is delineated, But then that's not the whole story even in the rice, because the rice you buy in the market, what does it say? It says reconstituted with B vitamins. Then the husk is brought back, because the husk is part of this. Ultimately, you say, in a way, because whatever is important in the husk is brought back. And now, like this, even in the Atma Anatma business, having done what is called the Tvam Pada Vichara, it is just a small operation happening on this side of the equation. Anybody who's done mathematics or geometry, this is what we do. We solve one side and then go to the other side. So this is just an internal operation connected to the word Tvam. An inquiry into the word Tvam, where the word Tvam, or rather let us convert it into Aham, where the word Aham is sifted from everything that is Naham, 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 Naham. So the sifting is taking place. Then we are left with this Aham, which is Asanga, which recognizes itself and recognizes everything else, which is the only thing that is not an object, the only subject that recognizes all other objects. This is what we are left with. Correct? Is this enough? No. Why? Because then we are left with two things, Atma and Anatma. Now where should we store Anatma now that we cannot dispense with it, we cannot dismiss it. It is now here because we have divided the whole Jagat into two. Atma, which is I, and Anatma, which is all this. Idam pratyaya gocharaha and aham pratyaya gocharaha. This is only half the job. This is only one side of the equation. Then there is a lot left to do. First, we have to find out what is this Atma really. It's not enough to say it is not Anatma, that is the double negative definition. First you say Atma and Anatma, then you say, not Anatma is Atma. That, I am not the house, I am not this, I am not that, I am not that, I am not that. But then what are you? Then you have to go to what is this, the other side. And similarly, you have to do the same operation on the Tat side. That operation of delineating what this Tat is called naturally tat pada vichara. So we have two kinds of enquiries. Vichara means enquiry. Tvam pada vichara and tat pada vichara. And in the word tat also we have to see what is this tat. And then we see in the classes that this tat is nothing other than sat. And this is how the Chandogya Upanishad, starts with. The Chandogya Upanishad starts with the word sat and concludes with the word tat, to show that the sat and tat are one and the same. Beautiful. Sadeva Somya idam agre asit. In the beginning, my dear one, Shvetaketu is told by the father turned teacher, all that was there was Sat. In the beginning, idam agre means before all this, before the things of the this cognition arrived, all that was there was Sat. Then what happened? Then what about all this? Which category should I, put this Anatma into? And Shvetaketu is told, Vak arambhanam vikaro namadheyam. All that I call Anatma, over on the other side when I did that operation, all that I say not I, or all that is, to put it in another way, idam pratyaya gochara. All that is nothing but, what is that? Sat. So what is this then? What is this cognition, idam pratyaya gochara, what is it? It is just dependent on Vak. Vak alambanam, Vak arambhanam, whose beginnings and whose whole being of this cognition objects falling under the word this cognition, objects that are qualified by the phrase this cognitions, objects that are observed by the eye, they all are just have a flimsy existence of being dependent on one's speech. Vak, arambhanam, vikaraha. Vikaraha means they are a modification, as it were. Modification of the speech. Everything that we call anatma, everything that is belonging to this cognition does not have a being other than my own speech. Think about that. This is, phenomenal. This is revolutionary. So when I say pot, what is pot really? What is pot? Then, of course, the people who've been taking a few classes will say, this is not pot, this is clay. Pot is nothing but clay. Yes, we know that. We know that the pot is nothing but clay, pot is clay, pot is clay, pot is clay. We know that. But then what is this reality called pot? Yeah. So in relation to the clay, what is the reality of the pot in relation vis-a-vis clay? Suppose we say that pot came from clay, sustained by clay, goes back to clay, just like this whole universe, this Jagat is, sustained by Sat. Out of Sat it came, sustained by Sat, and then goes back to Sat. Correct? Yeah. So what is this, in relation to clay, what is this pot? It is name and form. And the way to express name and form, according to Uddalaka, the teacher of Shvetaketu, the father of Shvetaketu, is to say word and meaning. Vak and vikara, word and meaning. So there is a word called pot, which has a meaning. What is the meaning? You know that. It is in the head. The meaning of the word pot is already in the head. So you know that this is a word and a meaning. And if you look at the entire Jagat of objects that this subject takes so seriously, word and meaning, word and meaning, word and meaning. Everything that one takes seriously, word and meaning. Town fair, word and meaning. House, word and meaning. Relatives, word and meaning. And the word relative is very good because it shows exactly what it is, relative, not absolute. Word and meaning. Word and meaning, word and meaning, word and meaning, word and meaning. So this whole Jagat is comprising words and their meanings. A heap of words is this Jagat along with some mutually understood meanings. That's all this is. This is Indian magic. You don't have to have long sleeves to put things in and say it has gone. You don't have to have some sleight of hands to say, oh, the pot has disappeared. Right in front of everyone. What to talk of pot? You can make the entire Jagat disappear into a heap of verbiage. That's all it is. And let us understand, let us note here that the word verbiage rhymes with garbage. So, the entire Jagat is words and meanings. Crafted by who? The I, the subject. So, really speaking, what I thought were two things, and in the beginning I had to be told that there were two things, because I was firmly convinced that there is Anatma, and Anatma is catching hold of me. Anatma in the form of, constraints, limitations of what I want to do. Anatma in the form of authority figures. Anatma in the form of state laws that don't have any loopholes. Anatma in the form of, all these codes, penal code and all these codes. Anatma in the form of all the body limitations, the mind limitations, the sensory limitations. Anatma in the form of everything that's coming to get me. Anatma in the form of thoughts that are very unsavory. All these things are coming to get me. When the Anatma becomes more real than the Atma, there is samsara. Correct? And so therefore, when we see the Jagat as nothing but Sat, Sat which was always there, which will always be there, which is Trikalepi Tishtati, that which is there in all periods of time, which is unchanging, and Sat which doesn't go away, which cannot be negated. This is what is Sat. It's limitless, unchanging, and it is Sat. It is sentient. It is a Chit that is Sat. It is manifest in the form of that which is sentient, and then it is a limitlessly manifest sentience, limitlessly manifest existence. So this is what is called the Tat Pada Vichara. Tat here being the cause of the universe. And the cause of the universe, first we say Bhagavan, and then what we do in Vedanta is unpack Bhagavan. Yeah, you have to unpack Bhagavan. You have to, cognitively unpack Bhagavan. And I'm not just talking of etymologically the word Bhagavan, no. You are unpacking the concept of God to see is this God made up of. All power, okay. What is behind all power? All knowledge, okay. What is this all knowledge? The ability to create, the ability to resolve everything, the ability to sustain everything. Yes, these are all powers. But who is the one that is wielding all these powers? So this is called Tat Pada Vichara, where the word Bhagavan or the word Tat as Jagat Karanam, as the cause of the universe, is dissected to reveal what is underneath this mask of Bhagavan. What is the garb of Bhagavan? The garb of Bhagavan as Jagat Karta, it is the same thing as a pedestal. Correct? It is a pedestal of or a throne where Bhagavan is made to sit, saying, this, the one who occupies this throne is all knowledge, all power, everything. Then you divest this Bhagavan to find out, you unpack this Bhagavan to find out who is it that is sitting on this throne. It is Sat with a crown. Yeah. Sat with a crown that has as though become responsible for this whole world of forms and names, words and meanings, this endless manifestation, this tapestry. Yesterday we talked about the tapestry, the words and meanings. So this canvas is alone obtained at the end of this Tat Pada Vichara. This canvas upon which the whole world of words and meanings, the embroidery of the entire Jagat is projected. And then when you do Tvam Pada Vichara, an analysis into the word you, what do you get? You get this canvas again of the Atma. What is this canvas? Canvas over which all the feelings, thoughts, ideas are projected. Same thing. And that canvas becomes the one and only thing which links the Atma to what is called Sat, to what is called Brahman, to what is called Bhagavan. That is the underlying equation, the underlying identity that belies the overt or apparent differences. And when the differences are at the level of word and meaning, they are apparent. They are apparent because they go away. They are not here to stay. So their reality is not that they disappear. No, they don't disappear. They disappear into your cognition. They disappear cognitively. But even though we make the pot disappear cognitively, it is still available for transaction, correct? Yeah. That is why we say that the Sat, as it were, has two facets to this Sat. One facet is itself as it is, absolute, unchanging, unmanifest and non-objectifiable. And the other facet of this Sat is, that which is manifest as many things, and those things are just dependent upon this Sat. A dependent reality, a dependent Jagat, which is dependent on this Sat, which is revealed as I. So the whole Jagat is really what? Dependent upon you. Don't say Bhagavan, you. Yeah. The whole Jagat is dependent upon you. Think about it. If you were not here to say this is pot, will this pot say I am pot? No. You are the one who recognizes everything that comes under the word this cognition, and you are the one who recognizes everything that comes under the word I cognition. You are the one who recognizes yourself. You cognize yourself. That is what is called self-evident, self-lighting, and then you cognize everything else. No, but so many of us are sitting here in this room. Yeah. But I can cognize all these people. You can't cognize all the people. You can cognize so many bodies. And maybe you are a mind reader and you cognize their minds. But you cannot cognize that Sat as an object, because the Sat in them is the Sat in you. Yeah. So therefore all there is one Atma alone. And so just like one clay, so many pots. The pots depend upon the clay. The clay does not depend upon the pots for their existence. The clay is an incidental expression. The pot is an incidental expression of the clay. From the standpoint of the clay, the pot is an incidental expression. Clay can be pot, clay can be horse. We have a horse here. The clay can be the horse, clay can be another pot, clay can be a bigger pot, clay can be, some kind of a big cauldron, clay can be a figurine, clay can be cup, saucer, lid, so many things. Correct? While being uniquely itself. While being itself, the clay lends its presence to all the objects in the clay world. So therefore you don't have to do a PhD on every single pot. All you have to do is know the clay, then you know everything. Ekena mritpindena, the Chandogya Upanishad says, Sarvam mrinmayam vijnatam bhavati. iti. From knowing one lump of clay, the whole world, the clay world comes to be known. Why? Because all those expressions of clay are incidental. Because the clay does not depend on those expressions in order to be itself. While remaining itself, it can manifest as so many things. And the second example that Uddalaka takes is that of gold and ornament. The gold lends its presence to million ornaments without losing anything. The shine of the ornament belongs to gold, the color of the ornament belongs to gold, the weight of the ornament is also not belonging to the ornament. Who does it belong to? The gold. And this is what it means, Vacharambanam Vikaro Namadheyam. This is all it is. There is nothing other than this. And this is what Shvetaketu is told. And whereas if you look at it opposite, if you look at it from the standpoint of the pot, what is the relationship of the pot to the clay? Is clay incidental to the pot? No. Pot cannot say clay can come, clay can go. If it says clay can go, then pot will also go. Correct? Yeah. From the standpoint of the pot, the clay is intrinsic to its existence. From the standpoint of the clay, the pot is incidental, an incidental expression. And so likewise, when you look at Sat, from the standpoint of the Sat, which is everything, which is uniquely itself, it can manifest as 5 million things, 5 billion things, 10 trillion things, and new species coming, it no dent in it whatsoever. Whereas from the standpoint of the manifest Jagat, the manifested Jagat, when you talk about so many things, all the mountains or the trees or whatever, so many bodies and minds, they cannot remain without the presence of Sat. If the Sat were to withdraw its presence from the so many ways in which all the galaxies, planets, everything are manifested, then those will not remain at all. They are a dependent reality, and the name for this dependent reality is Mithya. Mithya is Sat. Mithya doesn't have a leg to stand on, just like the pot cannot say, I can live without clay. I just have to practice, that's all. Every day I have to practice, and one day I'll be able to live without clay. Can it say that? No, it can say that, but it's not going to be of much use. Much less the shirt can say, I don't need the fabric. I have outgrown the fabric. I can rest on my own self. Swatas siddhoham. I am self-evident. The shirt cannot say that. The fabric in relation to the shirt can say, I am free of the shirt. Shirt cannot say, I am free of the fabric. Shirt has to be fabric. Out of fabric it has come. By fabric it is sustained. And whether that fabric is made of nylon or, what is that called? The raincoat material, rubber, anything. Or even newspaper. Sometimes, they make a shirt out of newspaper. Whatever it is. Fabric here, I mean that which is the surface of the shirt, the material. The shirt cannot exist without the material. The material is the substantive. The shirt is an adjective. But we have it the other way around in the language. We say gold bangle. What is the substantive here? What is the invariable? Gold. So bangle then becomes nose ring, and nose ring becomes necklace. But we say gold bangle. And then we say cotton shirt. What is invariable here? Cotton is invariable. Shirt aata jata hai, comes and goes. This shows that the ajnanam has pervaded the level of the grammar. That's why we have Atma, Atmanau, Atmanah, one Atma, two Atma, more than one Atma, Brahma, Brahmani, Brahmani, one Brahman, more two Brahmans, more than two Brahmans. This just shows that our ajnanam pervades the grammar also. You know? And therefore, this is, we should switch the other way around. Shirti cotton, we have to say. Yeah. Shirti polyester, shirti cotton. Shirti tea, that means t-shirt. Like that we have to say bangly gold, necklacey gold. Like this we have to change the thing to thinking like this. We have to change it in our minds, because our minds and our language reproduce this, ulta. It's all upside down. It's inside out. So that which is invariable in every cognition, that, when you look into the word I, what is obtained is awareness. That's all it is. That is the canvas. What is the I is decocted to in our Tvam-pada Vichara. It is distilled to after removing all the not I areas. Not the body, not the mind, not the intellect. What is that? That mano, buddhi, ahankara, chittani naham. Nacha shrotra jihve, nacha grahana netre, nacha vyoma bhumir, na tejo, na vayuhu. First there is they. This is the part of the teaching. Na iti, na iti, na iti. This is the sifting. And then what is this aham? Chidananda rupaha, shivoham, shivoham. Mano, buddhi, ahankara, chittani naham. I am not the various aspects of the mind, like the I notion, like the, the mind, the intellect, the emotions. I am not. I am neither the conglomerate of the sense organs, ears, eyes, sight, sound, etc. I'm also not, the five elements from which all these have come. Then what am I? Then you cannot leave it half like that, correct? Then you will get the answer, I am zero. Then you'll have to join a Buddhist class. Aham shunyoham, 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 punah punah. Instead of saying asangoham, you keep saying shunyoham, shunyoham. Shunyoham means what? I am zero. And actually you were better off before the knowledge, because occasionally the thought would come, I am hero, and now after the knowledge, all the time I am zero. What is the use of such a knowledge? From hero to zero. This is called enlightenment. And besides, who is saying I am zero? Are you a sentient conscious being or not? I have to think about that. Alright, let us put it much more basic. Are you existent or non-existent? I'll call up somebody and tell you. Nobody says that. Are you here? Yes. Always the answer comes late. Always it comes slowly. But it comes. When I say, are you here? What says yes? Does the body says I am here? No. It's not even the mind. That's why it takes time to come. It is sifting through all the not eyes. Are you here? Yes. You have to say yes. Even if you say no, what will sometimes, some rebellious people might be there. I'm going to say no. Let her ask the question again. I'm going to say no. Say no. Are you here? No. Okay. What does that mean when you say no? You're advertising you're here. Like a child that says, don't look behind the door. I'm not hiding behind the door. So, therefore, when you distill the word I, aham, this aham pratyaya gochara, that which is an subject of I cognition, which is itself really. What is the subject of I cognition? Itself, it is the subject of I cognition. And what is that itself? It is nothing but awareness, chaitanya, awareness, consciousness. And then when you distill this, the cap and the gown of Ishvara, wielding the place of power, all knowledge, all power. And what is the truth of Ishvara? Awareness. All awareness, consciousness, that's all. And that is how at that level you can say Tat Tvamasi. And Shvetaketu is told that. Tat Sat. That Sat which as it were became everything without undergoing any change. Tadeva Anupravishat. It lent its presence to everything. It Satta Spurti Pradhanena. It lent the awareness to all the sentient things. It lent its presence to all the things that are now called insentient. And by lending its presence, it became very poor, sad, dispirited, impoverished Sat. No. Do you become poor when you give away money in the dream? When you give away dream dollars to charity in the dream, do you become poor? No. Just like that. And you also lend your existence to various objects in the dream, sentient and non-sentient. You think of mountain, mountain is there. You think of water, water is there. You think of sun, sun comes. You think of other bodies are there. You give yourself a body and say, I am also occupying the dream. It's a clean projection without you undergoing any change. In the dream, if you have a tail, then in the morning, do you have to look and see, do I have a tail? No. In case there is some residue from the dream, no. It is all just a whole thing is a projection of Bhagavan. Projection of this sentient consciousness, which, which when it assumes the pedestal, when it occupies the status of being Jagat Karta, Jagat Karanam, it is called Brahman, Ishvara. When it occupies the status of being, being obtainable, being recognizable within an individual body, sense, mind, sense complex, it is called Atma, I. Same thing. That same sentient consciousness. Just like the fabric, when you make, when you make a big parachute out of it, it is also fabric, correct? Yeah. Then you make a small, doll's clothes. You make one shirt, one small little shirt smaller than a handkerchief. That is also fabric. This is also fabric. One is called Bada Parachute, huge 100 feet this side and the 50 feet that side, and all this. Tied together with strings and upholding this fellow who is jumping out of the plane. And the other one is a small little thing which you can't even put in the washing machine because it's so tiny. You can barely stitch it. Doll's shirt. But both are fabric, correct? And if the doll's shirt had a human mind, it will look at the parachute and say, lift me up. You are the one who is sustaining everything. I am a small little, nonsensical piece of fabric. And what is this human mind? Is it aham pratyaya gochara or is it idam pratyaya gochara? We have we have 40 minutes still. I can wait for the answer.
Now I'm inclined to think the mind is objectified, so it has to be done.
It has to be idam. Yeah, because you can say, the mind is restless today. The mind is not listening today. The mind is sleepy today. The mind is tamasic today. The mind is rajasic today. Who is the one who is observing? It is that aham. Yeah. So the mind falls under idam, just like the body falls under idam cognition. Now we have a Sanskrit English mix. Idam cognition. Or this pratyaya gochara. Idam pratyaya gochara or this cognition. Mind also comes under that. The problem is you think the mind to be I. That is why nothing works. Yeah. That is why you don't feel like getting out of bed also on some days. Because the mind is as good as I. If the mind is not doing well, I am not well. If the body is not well, I am sick. Yeah, so this is what it is. This is so, this sifting, the first is sifting cognitively to what? To falsify, as it were, that which doesn't belong to the I, and that which is falsified is brought back with a new status, a status of a dependent reality. This whole Jagat. Brought back means it never went anywhere. Cognitively brought back. Cognitively separated. Because it was seeping into the aham cognition, I cognition. So it had to be separated. And then Chidananda Rupaha, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am that Bhagavan, I am that auspiciousness which is which is in the form of this canvas, this unending canvas of awareness, consciousness, sentient consciousness, over which all this whole name and form, the tapestry of name and forms are embroidered with care. That is what this whole thing is. And so first you have the sifting between aham and idam, then you have what is called cognitively resolving the idam into aham. But the aham never resolves into idam. Just like the shirt resolves into fabric, the idam resolves into aham. This fabric of awareness envelops everything, accommodates everything. Why? Because it is itself in a different form. Like in the dream world, you have no problem owning up the dream world. You don't say that it was somebody else's dream. Correct? It was my dream alone. My dream universe. Everything is me. Sarva bhutastham atmanam, sarva bhutani cha atmani. I am in everything. Everything is in me. We have accomplished this in the dream world. This is something fantastic because we have already done this and we do this routinely in the dream world. Now the only thing to do is to bring it into the waking state as well. In the waking state, I don't know what happens because the duality in the dream world, seems much more manageable than the duality in the waking world. The duality in the waking world becomes much more scary, much more real than what it is. This dependent reality we have to see. And anything that is mithya has to have the presence of Sat, because without the presence of Sat there is no mithya. And if you don't understand that, imagine a pot without a substance. There is no pot without clay, without brass, without gold, nothing, without a material. There is no shirt without fabric. There is no Jagat without consciousness. This I have to see. But then I have to see that the other way is not possible. The other way is impossible. You cannot say that the fabric, the shirt is the cause of the fabric. Not possible. The shirt is dependent upon fabric. The fabric is independent of the shirt. So I is independent of everything. I is Sat, everything else is Mithya. And going back to the Upodghata Bhashya, the beginning Bhashya, the introductory commentary to the Brahma Sutra, Adi Shankara says the cause of samsara, Satyanrite Mithuni He said, beautiful, that introductory Bhashya is so beautiful. It just is so clear and eye-opening. He says the cause of samsara is taking Mithya to be Sat. Satya and Anritam he uses. Anritam here doesn't mean false, Mithya. Satyanrite, Satyam cha, Anritam cha, Satyanrite, Mithuni Kritya. You kind of marry Satyam and Mithya together. How can Satyam get Mithya and Mithya get married together? It's like saying, the pot is saying, I have chosen my soulmate. I have found a soulmate. Oh, that's great. Is it this pot? You are in love with this pot? No. I want to get married to clay. That which is non-separate from clay wants to get married to clay. Correct? Yeah. Likewise, the Jiva is looking for Brahman. I want to be wedded to Brahman. So this is Satyanrite Mithuni Kritya. This is that oppositional or mutual superimposition. Anatmani Atma Adhyasa, Atmani Anatma Adhyasa that we talked about earlier. This is what he says is the cause of samsara. And so it's not enough to have a nice, happy, pink feeling by coating the Pepto-Bismol on the Tvam Pada and saying you are that which is protected, you are Asanga, you are fine, you are okay, you are unaffected by the whole universe. Because Pepto-Bismol wears off, correct? Yeah, after a little while. So that is a working definition of the I. As you have sifted the I, you have taken it, lifted it out of the whole samsaric identifications and lifted it and kept it separately on the counter to dry off from the ocean of sorrow, correct? Yeah, but it's going to fall in it immediately because that's only part of the story. The other part is to decry this ocean as but a notion. So there is no need to wipe it off, no need to do this. And how to do that is to say that everything that is mithya is my projection, is an extension of this awareness, is just like, it is like, say, if it is like the gold saying, I uphold the entire golden universe. I am the star of the golden universe. Every ornament is me. Everything is me, from the tiniest nose stud to this, what is that? Navaratna mala, this, 9-layer mala is me alone. The one who says that is the one who is, who is blessed with the fruit of this knowledge, the one who can see that. And so therefore, this is what is called, the understanding of oneself as that consciousness. That consciousness alone I am. Just like the gold in relation to the golden universe can say, everything is just myself alone. So you see the Sat and Chit in all the objects, including your own body. You say this body is just me alone. That's very easy to say that, because that was the starting point anyway. Then you go extend to say wherever there is mithya, there is Sat. And that Sat is Bhagavan, that Sat is me. So you see yourself in everything. Sarva bhutastham atmanam, in every being, that which cannot be objectified in every body is me, correct? Are you able to see that? Because see, when you say, you see Swami sitting here, do you really see Swami? Or you see Swami's body? What do you see? You see Swami's body, and let's say you are even more skilled and you say, okay, I know what she is going to say next. You are seeing only Swami's mind, correct? Perhaps you can read Swami's mind. Is she going to give prasad today or not? Perhaps you can read it better than I can. So you can read Swami's mind. You can objectify, the body, but can you objectify the Swami? No. The same thing that I can do, I can objectify your body, you can objectify Swami body, but you cannot objectify the Sat in anything, because that Sat is you. What is in me is what is in you, and that is Sat. Tat Sat. Shvetaketu is finally told, Sa Atma, that Sat is you, Shvetaketu. Tvamasi, Tat Sat Sa Atma Tvamasi, Shvetaketu. This becomes the Mahavakya, where the sifting is done, the unification is done. And then when you are able to say that this Sat alone abides in all beings and this Sat is me alone, so therefore I abide in all beings. Sarva bhutastham atmanam pashyan. Just like when you say touch wood, you are touching the chair, hand, not even the whole chair, just a small portion of the handle of the chair. I touch and say, touch wood. I have transcended the carving, I have transcended the paint, the varnish and the unique nature of this handle, and I go straight to where? The chair. The wood. I have transcended the name and form. So I can say the same touch wood, Now I am touching a different object. What am I touching now? Table. And I can touch the wall and say touch wood. I can touch everything and say touch wood. I am not touching the name and form. I have transcended the name and form without needing to dismantle all the wooden pieces. Dismantle the chair and make it into a heap of wood. I don't need to do that, because in my vision it is wood plus an akara, a form, and a name called chair, table, wall, desk, figurine. This is all the wooden world. So the mithya is the name and form, the satyam is the substance. And when I can say that, when I can see through this entire universe, I have called the spoof of this universe, there is no more duality, because I see sarva bhutastham atmanam. And it has to go both ways now. Sarva bhutastham atmanam, I am in everything. Everything has its being in me alone. Sarva bhutani cha atmani. Everything has its being in me, which is sat. Me here doesn't mean one small fellow sitting somewhere in one corner. Me means the dissected, distilled, decocted I. So when I say I am going, I am coming, what do I mean? I as it obtains and as it is connected to this particular body, mind, sense complex. But when I say I am in everything, I have repositioned this I, correct? Yeah. It's all where you place the I, pun intended. Where do you place the I? Sarva bhutastham atmanam, sarva bhutani cha atmani. And then in Bhagavad Gita it says ikshate, ikshate, iksh to see. And here it says sampashyan, seeing very clearly. There should be no shadow of a doubt or vagueness or error in this recognition that all that is here is nothing but myself alone. And perhaps you have to go through a stage to do that. And what is the stage? The stage is called Karma Yoga. And in this Karma Yoga, what is advised? Look upon everything as Bhagavan. Correct? So you first look upon everything as Bhagavan. And then with the help of the knowledge, then you look upon everything as yourself, and that Bhagavan as also yourself alone. So this is what is the ultimate vision which is given in the Upanishad. So beautiful this Upanishad is. And it says, Sampashyan Brahma Paramam Yati. Yati goes. Yati goes. Where does the person go? Go only within quotes. Doesn't go anywhere. Where does the person go? Person attains this oneness of vision. Through this oneness of vision, the person attains Brahman. First it was called Atma, now the same consciousness is called Brahman. What's the difference? No difference. They are synonyms. There is no Atma without being Brahman, and whenever you refer to the word Brahman, you have to refer to the word Atma. How many things are there? One. Sometimes it's called Atma when you refer to it as obtaining within a particular body, mind, sense complex, and sometimes you call it, Brahman when you talk about it from the collective sense. Brahma Paramam Yati. Na anya hetuna. Without this oneness of vision, you cannot gain Brahman. Without this oneness of vision, Brahman cannot be gained. It is clearly written here. And here there is another small word play. Just for fun, I would like to point it out. It says, Na anya hetuna. Anya hetuna na yati. Correct? Yeah. So the yati, the word yati first is taken. Sampashyan Brahma Paramam Yati. The person seeing this clearly, seeing oneself in everything and everything as oneself, as an extension of oneself alone, as that consciousness which is all pervasive consciousness, when one sees, what happens? Paramam Brahma Yati. Attains this ultimate absolute Brahman as the truth of oneself. And then the Yati goes again with the Na. Nayati anya hetuna, does not gain this through any other ways. So the yati first has to be taken positively, gains Brahman through this only, and then the same word yati goes along with nayati. So beautiful. This is what is called Dehali Deepanyaya. What is Dehali Deepanyaya? I told a few days ago we had come across this particular, figure of speech earlier. Dehali Deepanyaya. The logic of the one light sharing two compound walls. So there is two houses, in the middle there is a compound wall, and then you put a lamp on it. Which yard will it illumine? Both. So the yati illumines both sides. Brahmayati and anya hetuna nayati. How beautiful is that? Very lovely. Then of course the person who is listening, perhaps the teacher sees that Ashvalayana, the person who is listening, the student here is feeling slightly dejected. This is a tall order. Ye kab hoga? Kaise hoga? How will this happen? How am I going to achieve this? And so the Prajapati breaks immediately, not into song, into a contemplation. So, and again, the unique feature of this Upanishad is that each time the meditation or the contemplation is given, it is given alongside the teaching. The teaching is also unfolded. Atmanam aranim kritva pranavam chottaranim ज्ञाननिर्मथनाभ्यासात् पाशं दहति पंडितः. So very beautiful. It is just so beautiful. This is also it appears with a slight difference in the Mundakopanishad. It appears this same thing. Atmanam, aranim kritva. Before seeing the translation, let us look at a few little back discussion. So whenever the yajna is done in the tradition, nowadays what do people do? I was actually horrified. In one place, in some interfaith conference I went, and some group said, we are going to show how yajna is done. And they invited me, please come, grace the yajna at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I said, okay, because they were showing it, so I thought, okay, I should offer the support. So I went there. I was horrified because this man bundled up a piece of newspaper and then lit fire to it and dropped it inside the thing. We would never do that, never do that. That is in fact seen as sacrilegious. But they were over there somewhere in Spain. It was Barcelona, Parliament of World Religions, and so they couldn't do otherwise. So I just, I asked for a quick pardon and continued to sit there. So this is, there was a way of lighting the fire. The fire has to be generated and reverentially placed in the Vedi, in the Homa Kunda, in the place where the fire is lit. It has to be reverentially placed. And so the fire has generated in a very unique way. You have a slender stick with a wooden stick with a round, bottom. Like, how you, the honey, for things like that. But it doesn't have those circles or those spirals. But it just has, imagine a round bottom. Like a tiny churning rod, but a very slender, long with a round bottom. That is called Uttara Arani. This is called Arani. And then we have Adho Arani, which is the bottom receptacle, also made of wood. And then it is a flat, thick piece of wood with a slight, indentation like a bowl. And then this one on top, sometimes they use a little rod with a kind of a thread, or sometimes I have seen it even done in between the fingers with the hand. And then in between the Adho Arani, the receptacle, and the Uttara Arani, the stick, they put a dry piece of grass or a rope, a small shredded rope. and then they just keep, it's an art. It's an art form to watch. And on one try, the beginners will not get. The beginners will not get it at all. You have to watch the master do it. And then when they do it in a certain way, the sparks fly. And then they take a wood piece and light this spark and take it and light the fire, sacrificial fire. When you have the fire ceremony or the what is called yajna, fire sacrifice, it's a form of worship where right next to it this arani is kept, and this rubbing action, the friction of the dried wood on top of that grass or the rope, it catches a spark, and then that is quickly put in the thing. This is called arani. And and it is likened to this repeated rubbing to generate the fire is likened to the contemplation on the dry grass. What is that dry grass? The word Om. On the kindling, the word Om. So think of the Om as the kindling, correct? And then the mind, the mind is repeating this Om, rub the Om into the mind. Keep rubbing the mind and the Om together. And the sparks of knowledge will fly. And the fire of knowledge will burn all karma. That is what this is. It is so beautiful. Atmanam, here Atma means mind. The place where the intellect, the mind intellect. Aranim kritva. Think of visualize this mind as that place, as the arani, the place where everything, the fire is generated. Ritually, sacrificially, in a sacred way. Atmanam aranim kritva. Make the mind into this receptacle. What is the Atma? The mind is the receptacle, with the bottom part of the arani. Atma is the adho arani. Correct? Arani has two parts. Uttara arani and adho arani. I explained this. Adho arani means the receptacle, and the uttara arani means what? The churning stick. Correct? Yeah. Atmanam aranim kritva. So you make the Atma the receptacle, the bottom part of the arani. And what is the churning stick? Om. Yeah. Om is the churning stick, churning rod. And so what is the kindling here? Tattvamasi, that we just heard, is the kindling. You put a little piece of Tattvamasi in between the Omkara. Tattvamasi is the teaching. The teaching is the kindling. And to form the teaching, the kindling is lighted up, is fired up by the repetition of the rubbing of the Omkara on the surface of the mind. How lovely this is. Atmanam aranim kritva. Make the Atma, the mind, into that bottom portion of this fire producing, equipment called arani. And the Omkara Ucharanam, the repetition of the word Om, the contemplation on the word Om, is the churning rod. The kindling by interpolation is what you have learnt. The Tattvamasi that you have learnt is the kindling. It has been received in the mind, but it is not yet on fire. If that is the case. It is not speaking to you completely. If that is the case, if it is already on fire, this is not needed. But this is nididhyasanam, when the shravana, means the listening, is not able to completely overcome what is called the viparita bhavana. And when a person talks in sentences like, I know I am Brahman, but, dot. I know I am Brahman, but I don't feel it. I know I am Brahman, but I get angry, not like Brahman, I know I am Brahman, but yet I engage in activities that clearly show a big discrepancy between myself and this Brahman. So, how do I bring this knowledge more home? How do I hone into this knowledge? How do I live this knowledge? How do I get rid of what is called viparita bhavana, the habitual orientations that, as it were, take me away from this teaching? And for that, it is said that this knowledge, you have to assimilate this knowledge. You keep looking at the meaning of the words of the teaching, Tattvamasi. What is this Tat? What is this Tvam? What is this Tat Pada Vichara? What is this Tvam Pada Vichara? You keep listening to that, you keep playing it out in your mind, you keep thinking about it. And when you think about the words of the Upanishad and repeatedly see their meanings, sometimes you need a little bit of help to do that. So we borrow the help from another Upanishad, the Mandukya Upanishad, and we borrow a monosyllabic help in the form of the word Om. So you bring in the Omkara. What is this Omkara and all we'll see in the afternoon. Beautiful. So you bring in this Omkara and then you help this teaching come to life with the practice of contemplation upon the meaning of the word Om repeatedly. Just like the Omkara itself is that churning stick and the teaching is the kindling, and the repetition of the Omkara sets the fire to the kindling, and the knowledge catches fire finally inside. The neurons start firing off, even though we even say this. And then what happens? Pasham dahati panditaha. The person is now called panditaha. Pandaha asyastiti panditaha. Panda means knowledge. Yeah, that's where this Desh Pandey has come. Pandey, Panda. Panda hona chahiye. Yeah. So that is Panda means knowledge. So then what do you do here? You then Pasham Dahati, all the karmas, all the bondages, this fire of knowledge burns. And looks like the Gita is really reading this. Vyasa has read this Upanishad because he says in the 5th chapter, Jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute. All the karmas, the fire of knowledge consumes totally without a residue. That's why in Arati we burn camphor in front of the Lord. Why? Because it burns without leaving a residue. So that my ignorance is burnt away without leaving a residue. Yeah. So to understand this verse, we have to understand what is Om. Correct? Yeah. Om is a word for Bhagavan. And it is also Mangala Suchaka. Mangala means what? Auspicious. Om is a word that is a monosyllabic word, 3 matras, made up of 3 matras, A, U, M. And it is, the Shastra has loaded it with a number of meanings. Om is a name for Bhagavan, the whole, that consciousness which is the truth of everything. Om is a name for that Tat, which is nothing but Sat, which is Jagat Karanam, and also which is beyond the Jagat Karanam. When there is no Karanatvam, that is still what remains is Om. Om is the name for Bhagavan in action, Bhagavan in repose. Bhagavan in action means Bhagavan associated with creation, as it were, and Bhagavan in repose, Pralaya. And this Omkara is loaded, the word Om is loaded with several different meanings. First, it is seen as a pratika for upasana. Pratika means a sound symbol. Therefore, there is no need to write it down. People keep making these big Oms and putting it all over the place. It's not needed because it is not a sight symbol. Swastika is a sight symbol, which the Hitler and everybody distorted it. Swastika means auspicious. It's a sight symbol, whereas Pranava or Om is a sound symbol. The blessing is in hearing it repeatedly. You hear it, you say it. So this word Om, and why is it heard? Because this dates the time before everything was written down. It was all heard. It was all Karana Parampara. It came from mouth to ear. So this is Om, and so it is the word for Bhagavan. It's a symbol for that meditation. So first it is Pratika, it's a word for Bhagavan. Then it is also seen as Alambana. And where did we see the word Alambana? Immediately the neurons should fire. Which Upanishad? Etadhyevalambanam param. Etadhyevalambanam jnatva brahmarupe mahiyate. Etadhyevalambanam shreshtham. Etadhyevalambanam param. No? Tat padam sangrahena pravakshye om iti etat. Okay, let us go through the Upanishads. Maybe by default it will come. Yeah. What Upanishads we are studying right now? Okay, correct. Kathopanishad. Lord Yama says this is Alambana. Etadhi eva alambanam shreshtham. Etadhi eva alambanam param. Etad alambanam jnatva brahmaloke mahiyate. This is the alambana, means that upon which I rely to get to something else, And what is it that one relies on? This consciousness alone, this Bhagavan alone, and this Om is a representation of that consciousness. So first as Pratika, which is Bhagavan, and Alambana, which is a means, not so Om is the end in the form, and it's a symbol, a sound symbol of Bhagavan. It's a Pratika, and then it's an Alambana. It's a way to firm up the knowledge in the mind, in the heart. Then finally we also look at it phonetically. The third way to look at Om is phonetically. And we'll be doing all these three things in the afternoon session. Please recall the announcement made yesterday that the Bhagavad Gita we are no longer studying the 12th chapter. Oh, why? Why? We finished it yesterday. And then we can use a few more classes for Kaivalya Upanishad, so that I don't have to rush through it, since we are at a good pace and we are enjoying ourselves. So the rest of the classes on your schedule, on your monthly calendar, wherever there is Bhagavad Gita, please put Kaivalya Upanishad, and to spell it out, so that is 2 classes this afternoon, 4 to 6, Kaivalya Upanishad. This Thursday, 6 to 7 our time, Kaivalya Upanishad. Friday, of course, Kaivalya Upanishad. And next Saturday, both morning and afternoon, Kaivalya Upanishad. Okay? This is what it means. All right. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yeah, Uttara means top. Yeah, Om is the Uttararani. Any questions? Harihi Om. The repetition of the teaching, once you know the meaning, yes, lights up all the parts that are not lit. Correct. I have been thinking of the different modes of teaching that you were telling yesterday, and that some gurus will just be calm, which is not the correct way to transfer the knowledge. But how come Adi Guru, Dakshinamurti, Maunam, Vyakhyanam, etc.? All right, yeah, it is the degree of preparation. Maunam, Vyakhyanam means we have to understand. Maunam Vyakhyanam means that ultimately that which is understood is not through words, it is indicated by words, and the understanding of it is that oneness is that which is understood by oneself. That is what Maunam Vyakhyanam means. And that's why the four Sanat Kumaras, Sanat Kumara, Sanat Sujata, Sanaka and Sanandana, who were sitting at Dakshinamurti's feet, are seen as Vriddha Shishyaha Gurur Yuva, young Guru and old students. And they are not really old in that sense. Old means old souls. They have been around for a long time. That is what it means. Meaning that they have done all their preparation. Yeah. No, you don't have to let go of anything. That knowledge is you. How can you let go of yourself? The one who is letting go is you. Correct? Yeah. Yeah, in the afternoon I will repeat it in the afternoon. I missed yesterday afternoon's class. Please tell me what to do. Go to the website arshavm.org, and then there is a link right on the front page where it says how you can catch up live stream. So go and look at that. You can watch it, everything is there. What is the correct way to chant Om? Yeah, that will all come this afternoon. Just like how I have said Om. You cannot separate Aum, you don't do that. Yeah. Om, that's all it is. There is nothing wrong in accepting enlightenment. Enlightenment is a subjective thing, because the person who is quote unquote enlightened knows it. Other people don't know it. So it's not that Buddha is an avatara for us. So of course we say he is enlightened. That's not the question. But what is taught and how it is taught is a different thing. And usually this is what happens with religions that have founders. The founder goes away, leaves the physical world, and the people start to flounder without the founder. That's what happens. Einstein said, as a circle of light grows, so does the area of darkness around it. Does this mean that the circumference boundary of where it touches the darkness gets bigger, so it reveals more darkness? My question is this applicable to objective knowledge and not to subjective knowledge? Actually, I don't follow your question. Yeah. The way to look at it is not like that. That's not how to look at it, really. As the circle of light grows, the more areas that are in dark also are in light. That is how we would look at it. Yeah. What is it that the rishis meditate upon? Rishis meditate upon Om. Yeah. See you very soon again. 4 o'clock our time. Okay.